Okay, if you look back into the 80s, 1980s and 1990s, during the rise of the hip-hop culture, there was also another culture that was gaining power as well. The anti-hip-hop culture, the anti-youth culture, all right? They were writing laws that were against youth, against youthful indiscretions, largely because this group knew what what it was like to be youth, okay? I'm talking about the baby boomers who grew up in the 60s, 1960s and 1970s, who were so powerful in their numbers that they could drop the drinking age to 18 for a few years. It was just a short span. If you look at the history of American drinking age, it dropped for a little bit. I believe in the 70s, about the 70s. I forget if it was the early part or the late part. And then it went back up after these baby boomers started having children. So the baby boomers were such a power structure, just the group alone, that they could pretty much control the government, get elected into the positions to make the decisions for laws that went that was in their favor. Whatever the baby boomers wanted, they got. It's the me generation, and they really had a lot of power to manipulate the laws. The same laws that we're seeing today, okay? These laws have permeated well past the time that they were written, okay? And in response to this, now we have the Generation Y, the millennials, pushing back a little bit, seeing how these laws don't really seem to make much sense. They made sense to the baby boomers at the time, but that was just because they had such a collective power that they could manipulate the government, a lot of things their way. But now that the baby boomers, I read couple of years ago that the baby boomers numbers have dwindled so much that now the millennials population is actually higher than them. I'm actually a Generation X, which is like in between. I'm kind of the lost generation, it feels, because I definitely had to face a lot of the baby boomers' power more directly, but now it's kind of being just power that's left awake, left. I don't want to say it's not exactly a mess. They left a lot of whatever you historically you're remembered as, okay, remembered for, and people are pushing back against this in a lot of ways, by becoming constitutionalists, more in line, by studying before the baby boomers were in power. What was it like? I've read people make comments about how the law enforcement didn't used to be so strict. They didn't used to hold a curfew over underage kids. All right, there wasn't these curfews, these just all kinds of things that require you to show your ID. Trespassing, you didn't have all these trespassing laws and stuff, and people are a bit tired of it, and it takes a big powerful collective to like change things in a way to favor your agenda. All right, but that's hard to do. Okay, if you study social movements, there's the groups that go out onto the streets and protest, who have a tendency not to be able to change much, compared to ones who will get elected into government positions who can make changes. All right, but are we so like accommodating to the way our culture is, that we're just going to accept things as they are. Not everybody's accepting things as they are. Instead, they're pushing back, and there's been different little movements to push back. For example, you have the Freelanders, or constitutionalists. Before the Constitution was written, you had common law, and that was kind of like more about whether you have your own army or not. Do you have your own army to face off against somebody who may be oppressing you? Okay, you could say, I have this law, I don't like the color of your shoes, but do you have an army to back up your law? You have to wear certain types of shoes that are not this particular color. So we could fall back on the Constitution as individuals, but if we wanted to change more than that, then we'll need our own armies